So I guess this is Cigars 11 podcast
Episode
001, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I put 2 zeros in front of that to imply that eventually it would be in triple digits and there'd be quite a lot of episodes.
That would be a lot of podcasting.
Be a lot of cigars.
A lot of cigars. I feel like the podcast has started.
I think it has.
Yeah. So what's going on, guys? This is the Cigars of London podcast, the first episode. I'm here with John.
Nice to see you.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. The long-awaited return.
We did have what did we have the other day? Well, we had a couple, didn't we, here?
Yeah.
But we didn't. We just had a catch up and spoke about the podcast, and now this is episode 1. We've got the Perez Carrillo. We've got one each here. We have had one of these before, haven't we? About a year ago?
Yeah, a while back now. I think we only ever had the one of these. I do remember enjoying them though. And I'll be honest, it was way back at the beginning when I was just getting into the whole cigar scene. And I originally picked my first Perez Carrillo because I quite liked the shape. So
yeah, they're very decorative looking, aren't they?
They are.
3 bands, you've got the blue ribbon, the branding in the middle, and then this art piece, which looks quite amazing.
Yeah, there's probably a name for that kind of style. It almost looks like South American Mexicana.
Yeah.
That whole kind of Cuban Mexicana religious art vibe.
Yeah.
Very colourful, very cool, very cool.
The level of detail, if you look at the woman on the left, she's got like an earring or something, and it's like almost looks 3D.
Oh wow, yeah. Good spot. Good spot.
So, yeah, no, they do look amazing. We're looking at just under 5.5 inches for this cigar with a 52 ring gauge. The wrapper type is San Andreas Mexican. Binder is from Ecuador, Sumatra. Fillet is Nicaraguan, and it originates from the Dominican Republic. Thanks to my notes, I remembered all of that.
Thanks to your notes. Just having a little smell of it, and
I must say, just smelling it there, it smells wonderful, and it brings back memories.
I was just about to say that it does. It does bring back memories.
In fact, I remember the video we done because we put all the boxes behind us on the radiator. Can you remember?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And we done a little Instagram live stream as well.
We did, and I choked on my cigar.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
Well, it was worth it. We did an insert. So for everyone listening, we did a little Instagram live stream and one of our early videos when we did the first Perez Carrillo. And amidst answering a question, I accidentally breathed a mouthful of cigar smoke in and had to exit stage left really quickly outside to try not to vomit on myself. So it's a bonus. But it does bring back memories of cigar. I remember one thing about it is that just dry, it's very sweet, the smell of it.
Yeah.
Very chocolatey, and I remember at the time having that really amateurish view that I wonder if they're darker and then they have those chocolatey smells. And then obviously being corrected from the many cigars that I've smoked and spoken with you about since. But it is
I think since then we've both come a long way in terms of smoking cigars and what we can actually pick out, but this thing really does have a very distinct sweet tobacco smell.
yes.
And the one thing I do remember from this cigar was raisin. Personally, because it's the first time I had ever really tasted raisin from a cigar. So we're just gonna cut these up and give them a little dry draw. See how they.
I'm interested on the cut with these because I remember the first one, although it was the same tobacco, being a box cut and a torpedo, or a box press and a torpedo roll. So I'm interested to see how that's different in the cut. But on the dry draw there, it's easy, very easy.
Yeah. But you get, even just off of the wrapper, there's a lot of flavour.
Yeah.
That sweet tobacco that I was talking about earlier on.
I very rarely feel this way when I dry draw a cigar, but a lot of the stuff that I smoke just go to, Churchill's or whatever, great for smoking. But I can imagine having this one just hanging out my mouth, Winston Churchill style, kind of chewing on the end of it, like Lawrence does from Sousa's, kind of really just enjoying the whole flavour of the cigar as well as the smoke.
Yeah.
There's not many that do that just on the wrapper.
you could almost get away with it as well. These were £15.50 in the store, so it's not a bad price for that much cigar.
That's bargain price really for cigars in the UK, especially in our part of the country. And did you go store for these?
Yeah, Havana House.
Havana House in Windsor.
Yeah, that's the first place I ever bought cigars from. Havana House in Windsor.
I think it's the first place I ever bought cigars from.
I think we went there, didn't we?
Yeah. It's been Old Faithful, isn't it?
So see what you think of that.
Oh yeah. Yep, familiar. Familiar. I do remember these. This was the first cigar for me, if I remember rightly, that showed me how much a cigar could develop and change in flavour.
Yeah.
Right the way through all the thirds. And I remember having a conversation, I think when we did the first Perez Carrillo video, that we found that was the case more at the time with non-Cubans. And that some of the Cubans we'd smoked at the time were more consistent throughout the flavour profile. Although the flavours intensified, they were the same profile. And I seem to remember this one developing into slightly different stuff as it went through.
Yeah, it's funny how smoking this already just in the first few minutes is bringing back so many memories from that video. And I think it was your first non-Cuban cigar.
I think you might be right.
I think it was.
Which is why it was such an event, because I remember picking it because of the way it looked.
Yeah. And I do remember just going off the back of what you said there, unlike any cigar I've ever smoked, this one more than any do I remember it developing, like you said. Like you get some chocolate, some leather, earth, bit of raisin, then it swaps backwards and forwards.
Yeah, it jumps
and it's
around.
an entirely different experience to anything else I've tried, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that happens. It's one of those things that I think people would get more from cigars than any other thing. With that, I might be teaching you something here that I might not, but the one of the sense that linked most to memory is smell.
Okay. Yeah.
So those olfactory senses, you'll jump straight back to memory quicker through smelling something than you will through seeing or hearing or tasting something.
Well, this is certainly doing that.
Yeah, definitely. So, which is a great thing, because one of the things you always seem to hear from people who smoke cigars quite a lot is that it's a lot about the experience, who you spend the time with, what you were doing at the time.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes a lot of sense if you attach smells to memory quite easily. So it's nice to revisit something we've done before and have that little baseline of what we thought about it come back and be able to compare it quite easily.
That's kind of the reason I picked it up. I went into the store, and we had spoke previously about what to get, whether it was going to be a Cuban or non-Cuban.
Yeah.
We decided on a non-Cuban, and these are the first ones I saw, and I was like, it's a done deal. It would be good to revisit those cigars. It was probably not quite a year ago, but it's coming up there. It's coming up for about a year, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And it's good to go back, and especially doing a podcast now, it's already quite fun, bringing back those memories and talking about memories.
Yeah. Talking about memories. It's funny you should mention that, actually, because about it being a year ago. So it was on one of my social media pages. You get I think on Facebook they call it time hop, but Instagram have started doing a similar thing where they show you this picture. It was one you posted a year ago.
Oh yeah.
And it was a picture that you took of me at your old place.
Yeah.
Where we first started shooting videos, and I remember the day because it was about the time I'd started getting into media myself and photography.
Yeah.
And I'd come around that day to take some pictures of cigars with you and try out my brand new camera.
I remember that.
And that was only so that was a year ago last week.
Time flies.
Yeah. Doesn't it? It does.
Time flies. It's funny, actually. I was looking at some of the old uploads on the YouTube channel, and there's us just in a living room, and it's fascinating to see how far we've come with cigars in general.
Yeah.
Regarding even to the point where we used to light them in our mouths.
Mm-hmm.
Can you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would never do that now.
Yeah.
So many little lessons learned along the way. The biggest improvement for me personally with the videos is sorting out the backdrop and having one set that people can really get used to, so they know what they're coming back for each time.
Yeah.
But it's a different cigar, and I've been sending out like emails to whoever signed up on the website, letting them know what's to come, so it's a little bit more arranged, it's less last minute. There's going to be different series, different topics spoken about. Obviously we're now doing the podcast as well, so there's a lot in the pipeline. And you know, this time next year we'll come back and we'll revisit this same cigar and we can do it all over
That's
again.
That's a great idea. And I know we've spoken a lot about a variance of different ideas and topics, so I think it's going to give us a lot of a springboard for discussion points on this podcast and on episodes in the future. But it's interesting that comparing that from a year ago. So I think that the 2 points you just spoke about there. So cigars in general, we improved our knowledge and broadened our knowledge.
Yes.
And I think the way we did that, we threw ourselves into cigars everywhere we could find them. So some of the guys who watch the YouTube channel, and for your listeners, you guys might remember that we attended cigar evenings across London.
Yeah.
To just try and mix with different people in different walks of life who enjoyed luxury products like that. We were attending lounges all over the place, going to different countries to sample cigars. I think you went to Cologne in Germany.
Yeah.
And first thing you did was just try the humidors out in different cigar shops around the place.
They're cheaper.
They're cheaper, and the culture's different.
Yeah.
Obviously, I spent some time in Wrocław in Poland doing the same thing. Brought back a handful of delights, as is always the case. And then the same thing again with the media. You know, a year ago, there I was learning how to take pictures of products, and now somewhat a photographer in my own right.
Yeah. Cigar aficionados, photographers.
Yeah.
So again, going off the back of what you were just talking about regarding throwing ourselves into cigars. Cigars of London, for anyone who doesn't know, started from one picture that was posted on Instagram, and never did we ever claim to know everything about cigars. But that didn't stop us from uploading our thoughts on cigars, and by default there was a lot of seasoned smokers who didn't really like what we were doing.
Yeah, that's very true.
Which was fine. Like, you know, you just have to deal with it. But again, it's cool to be able to look back and see how far we've come, because it just makes me wonder where Cigars of London is going to be in 10 years time from now.
Yeah. And
that would also bring me on to a point of saying, when would have been the right time to start Cigars of London?
It's a great question to ask in hindsight, but at the same time, exactly when we started it,
yeah,
was the right time to start, because that learning base is always a requirement.
Yeah.
And the thing that we were trying to do and still continue to do was make cigars accessible. And the experience accessible. Yeah. And we went into it a year ago, never claiming to know everything about cigars, and still not doing that. Still, it's a journey and experience.
Yeah.
But it gives other people who might be getting into it, or only have it as a hobby, or aren't perhaps diving into the cigar nights and the events and the lounges and just enjoying one at home, to be able to have that possibility to share the same thing with somebody.
Yeah.
There's no reason, and we've done these before, the smoke-alongs, to sit and do a live stream or to listen along to the podcast with the same cigar. Yeah. We very rarely make an event out of expensive cigars, and we're always quite upfront about where we got them from, what they are, and what they cost. Yeah.
Yeah. The online cigar meet was, you know, a massive success. Even though, you know, there was only 10 spaces available, 10 of those spaces were filled, and being the first of its kind, I was amazed at how into it people were. Yeah. That they could now smoke a cigar with other people from the comfort of their own living room.
Yeah.
Or
Indeed.
workspace.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't have to sit and watch. They could just sit and listen, interact via the comments, and being able to interact with viewers like that was actually fun for us as well.
Yeah, I agree, and it's something I think was worth touching on this first episode is the contrast between the modern age, the modern cigar aficionado and the internet,
yeah,
and where the roots of cigars have come from. And I think there's definitely a bit of contention between the two across the cigar industry. And a lot, again, also perhaps not in some cases, there are people with their eyes wide open, businessmen who are long established with their eyes wide open. But there's a massive difference, at least in the UK, between those two worlds. You've got your bricks and mortar cigar lounges and shops, tobacconists, who live purely or mostly in that world. And then you've got online vendors, who obviously are selling cigars, the same cigars in most cases, but at reduced prices. But obviously, people can only or would only usually enjoy those in their own home. And then you have the third dimension of it in the social media element, like what we're trying to provide, and the entertainment sort of side to cigars, reaching out to people in a social aspect. That's something I think that, although it could happen in the past with the old school, if we're going to call it that, people would get together and do cigar evenings in groups of 5 or 10 or 15 people. With the online cigar meets and with the power of the Cigars London website and associated social medias, that can be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people.
Well, you can post one picture and have it seen by 1 billion people.
For sure.
But if you have a poster in your shop window about your cigar event, let's say 10,000 people walk past.
How many of them really have the social wherewithal to take part in that all the time?
Even worse than that, you might have a cigar event and have the same people show up every single month. Now,
That's
what
true.
use is that, really,
No.
in introducing new people to cigars?
And as a business, I suppose, having repeat custom and the same people buying tickets, if it's an event you charge for, great for you. You fill the same 10 spaces every month. And I suppose it's a guaranteed income, but it's not drumming up new business.
No, you're limiting yourself long term.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There are a number of pretty reliable vendors now as well in the UK.
Yeah, there really are. You can order cigars and they'll be delivered to your door within 3 days. Much like anything.
Yes.
I always say to myself, wait till Amazon starts selling.
I was just about to say
cigars.
Wait till Amazon starts selling cigars. Yeah.
That will instantly close people down, I'm sure of it.
Prime same day Perez Carrillo.
Within the hour, have your cheese, wine and cigars delivered.
Outstanding.
Oh, God.
There'll be some resistance in the way it moves forward, but I think there's always that resistance. I think the two don't necessarily have to fight against each other if people in both camps are smart enough.
Yeah.
It's like, if I take it completely away from that and you look at electric cars, at some point, if we want to continue to live on the planet, we're all going to have to go electric day to day.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that petrol and diesel cars will cease to exist. It means that they'll become a luxury. And so everyone would order their cigars online because that's where the world goes to. It doesn't mean people will cease to get together and have events. It just means that they'll become events.
Yeah.
It'll be a celebration of a thing.
Yeah, no, that is very true. Whilst we're on the lines of that, why don't we talk about, where I prefer buying cigars. Do I prefer buying cigars online, or do I prefer buying them in store? What would you?
There's pros and cons.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So I like buying cigars online for the majority, for the most part. It's a bit more cost effective. In some cases, it's a lot more cost effective. I've got much more variety, so I can explore quicker. If I hear of something on a podcast or on a YouTube video, or I read about something, I can find it immediately and order it.
Yeah.
And I can fill my humidor that way. I like to have a lot of different things in there, a lot of variety. And if I try to fill my humidor in a tobacconist, that's firstly quite an expensive experience.
Yeah.
And they might not necessarily have everything that I want. Whereas if I go to a larger online cigar retailer in the UK, the odds are they have everything that's available in the UK.
Yeah.
Or at 95% of it. You know, stuff that starts to runs out. I mean, remember you and I trying to find Behikes for a number of weeks last year and just having no fun whatsoever. They just weren't around. And the ones that were still sitting in people's humidors for a reason.
Yeah.
They'd been badly cared for and nobody wanted to smoke them.
Yeah, we did come across a couple, didn't we, in Cobham?
Cobham, I found some in Brighton.
Oh, did you?
I found some in Brighton, but they were in equally bad state of affairs.
Last of the last available.
Yeah.
Probably not worth it.
No, a little out of the way tobacconist that, you know, God love him, he sells cigars in a world where people don't really do that anymore, but it wasn't mainstream as far as bricks and mortar buildings go. So yeah, overall I prefer to buy online that has all those pros rather than cons, should I say. But then if I look at the things I do like about going into a store, in the right one, that's an experience in itself.
Yeah.
If we go to somewhere we really enjoy going, like JJ Fox,
Yes.
in central London, it's James Street, I believe, isn't it? James Street, and that's an experience in itself. I go in there and I get top quality service at a premium, to be fair, but the environment is a lovely place to sit and enjoy a cigar.
Yeah.
To have a meeting, to while away the afternoon.
At the end of the day, you can go upstairs, sit in there all day if you wanted, coffee, you know, sparkling or still water, bathroom facilities.
Yeah.
So for that additional $3.50 that you might spend on a cigar, it's so worth it.
It is for that experience. But then that brings me around to the other side of that coin, is that there are some cigar stores out there and attached lounges even that may be good on the face of it or may not. You don't know what you're getting into until you're in there. Yeah. Some are hosted very well. So for example, when I spent some time in Wrocław in September in Poland, I found a tiny little cigar store and lounge and sampling lounge. I don't know if they call the sampling lounge in mainland Europe, whether the law is the same, but nonetheless you smoke cigars in them when you buy them, so the concept is the same. And that was a great experience in the sense that the guy who ran the shop was very knowledgeable, very welcoming, and kind of hosted us the entire time we were there, in a very positive way, in a very cosmopolitan, international kind of way. He was interested in where we were from, what we did, and there was great conversation. Some you can go to and the owner might be, or the operator might be a little bit long in the tooth, a little bit old school, and perhaps a little bit jaded. Yeah. So that can be a negative experience in some cases. And I've only really seen that in some we've been to in the UK. But there's pros and cons both ways. If I had to have it one way and only one way, I would smoke at JJ Fox all the time. Yeah. Second best, I'd buy them online and I'd smoke them with friends in the comfort.
Yeah. You can make your own arrangements and smoke wherever you want to. I went to a cigar store not long ago. I won't mention what store it was, but I wanted to pick up a couple of cigars, Monte Cristo number 2s to be precise. And to cut a long story short, by the time I got there, parked, bought the cigars, you know, got a coffee, had a sandwich, by the time I got back home again, I paid a 3 times, almost 4 times premium versus an online price. Yeah. And I wouldn't mind doing that if it was JJ Fox, and I did sit in there for a few hours and enjoy the cigar, enjoy other people's company, the atmosphere, the fact that you're in London, you can have as much coffee as you wanted. But I left that store that day having spent that premium versus online prices, not feeling anything. Like, I wasn't left thinking, I can't wait to go back there again.
Yeah.
There was nothing. It was the same feeling you get when you go into a shop and you buy a Mars bar and you leave again.
Sure.
You're like, I went in there, I got what I wanted, I'm going to eat it or smoke it, job done. But you never leave a spar shop going, I can't wait to get back in there.
Yeah, it's a purely utility experience.
Yeah, and I think with the cigar industry being as small as it is, yeah, everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
Right? I think there should be an effort made when it comes to a particular vibe or mood when you walk in the store. Like, I didn't get asked how I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
They barely remembered who I was.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to the same shop every week.
Mm-hmm.
It would just be nice for someone to go, oh, how was that cigar that you had last time?
Yeah.
They remember your name or whatever. Like, there was... I can't mention names, which is annoying, but the guy that we used to go and see.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You went to that shop just to have a chat with that one guy.
Of course, and I do that even if I wasn't buying cigars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we did a few times.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with the town that particular cigar shop is in is quite a quintessential British town.
Yeah.
So I go there for more than just to buy cigars.
Yeah.
I go to take pictures or go to restaurants, plenty of other things.
Exactly.
But if the place is open, I would go in there and I'd have a conversation with him.
Uh-huh.
And it was always worth it because I went in there, it was a friendly atmosphere.
Yeah.
I felt welcome. It was interesting. It was something I enjoyed, and often I'd learn something.
Yeah.
I was exposed to so much other stuff other than cigars. It's the first time I ever considered that smoking a pipe was a possibility.
Yeah.
And I learned about that more in a conversation with that one single person than ever you could from any other situation.
Yeah, exactly. There was always a little bit of rum somewhere lurking around to sample as well, wasn't there?
And there was always that's one thing you don't get from online, right? So if I go online to a large cigar retailer, I can find out everything I want to about my cigar. There's a great long paragraph that tells you where the long fillers are from and where it's rolled and a little bit about the family history of the family that own the cigar company. And that's all great, but that's all the information I'm getting. Whereas I'll go into the place we're talking about and I'll find out a personal opinion about that cigar. And also I'll get out, oh, by the way, I've just had this in.
Yeah.
Why don't you try some of this?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'll have a little drop of this.
Yeah.
See what you think. Yeah. And then you'll get sent away with,
a new cutter, a new lighter, a bottle of whiskey.
And good for them in the sense that drums up their business and it keeps it coming back. But at the same time, I get sent away with all those things, plus the cigar I went in for, one that I didn't know I wanted, and one that he can't wait for me to come back and tell him how I enjoyed it or not.
Yeah, and that is exactly the point. You're given a reason to go back. So I still prefer buying my cigars online. I shop for convenience, and that brings me on to buying a suit online, which I did so the other day. And I thought, when I was ordering it, it's a risky business ordering any item of clothing online, let alone a suit that's got to fit your leg, your calf, the length of your leg, your waist. You got the waistcoat, the jacket, sleeve length, the chest. There's so many things that could go wrong. And it was one of the best suits I've ever purchased.
I would 100% disagree with you here. So I bought one online a while ago from, I won't mention the name of the retailer because I don't want them to have the publicity. But if you were to Google custom suits online, I'm sure they're one of the top ones to come up. They advertise on Instagram quite a lot. I did the same thing and I was filled with confidence. Firstly, because of the price. I thought, oh, here we go. Now we're looking at quality.
Yeah.
And then obviously the extensive list of measurements you're required to do yourself, which there's a guide, and I followed it to the T. Arm and all that. I think there was about 25 measurements in total I had to put into the thing. And I waited 6 weeks for this suit to turn up.
What?
And the fit was atrocious. It was miles away. And I remember reading on the measuring guide, it says measure the measurements we give you here precisely the way we measure them. Don't add anything on, don't take anything off. Our tailors will know what fit is best for you based on the measurements you give us. The trousers were 3 inches too big in the waist, 2 inches too long in the leg, and the jacket looked like I was wearing my dad's. I've since then spent another £100 having it adjusted so that it fits.
Oh my god. See, the suit I bought was £125 for a 3-piece.
See, mine was more than twice that money.
Oh, I don't know where you shopped.
And it was the material's fantastic. It's a great tweed suit. Let's give this a little relight here. It's a great tweed suit, lovely material, real sort of classic British 3-piece style.
Yeah.
And I did love the style of it, but the fit was absolutely abysmal.
Yeah, that's not what you want, is it? That's not what you want at all. So going back to shopping for convenience, you know, the point I was making earlier about having to drive all the way to the cigar store, park, get a coffee and a sandwich as you do whilst you're out in town. You do pay an extreme premium, and all for what? I think if I had a cigar store today, I would be making more of an effort to include my customers into a total experience.
Sure.
And not just going in to buy a Mars bar. Yeah. Like going back to what I said earlier about buying a Mars bar.
Yeah.
It's a luxury item at the end of the day. It's a premium.
Mars bars.
No. Snickers are a bit more classy, I think.
Yeah, it's the peanuts.
But if you're going in and you're spending £20-30 on a cigar, I don't know. Look at what JJ Fox are offering.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of these smaller cigar stores around the UK.
And the way I like to justify places like JJ Fox to myself, and number 10 Manchester Street is another fantastic cigar experience.
I've not been there yet, but you've told me all about it.
You must come.
Yeah.
It was recommended by one of the other cigar aficionados we both follow on Instagram. Thank you, Lou. And it was fantastic. And yeah, they are a premium. When I look at the cigar list at number 10 Manchester Street, or the prices, you know, in the humidor at JJ's, you go, yep, that's about the top end of what I'd pay for that particular stick.
Yeah.
But then if you look at the margin of difference between that and buying one online, so let's take something everybody knows. Let's go for a Churchill, a Romeo and Juliet, wide Churchill.
One of your go-tos still?
One of my go-tos, yeah. I'll still quite happily pick one of them up for a cigar. I don't really have to think about. And you know, if you wouldn't be surprised to pay in a premium place over £30 for one of those. You know, 31 to 35 isn't uncommon in those kind of places for that stick. To buy that online, £20.
Yeah, or less.
So let's say as an average, it's £10 more expensive in the really premium cigar venues.
Yeah.
The question is, if I told you that the price was the internet price in that venue, and then said, here's your £20 wide Churchill, how much would you pay for the service you get individually? How much would you tip the guy for lighting your cigar, for telling you about the cigar, for bringing you your coffee, and for the experience of sitting in the upstairs in JJ's for the afternoon? How much is that worth to you?
A lot.
More than £10.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
More than the difference in price.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between the good ones and the bad ones in my mind.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I say something, or I have done before. You know, when you do go into a place like JJ Fox, or anywhere in London for that matter, the Ritz, for example, you're not going to pay an internet price in there, because look around. But at the same time, who really has the time to only ever smoke a cigar in or around London? Like we were talking about earlier, how would you prefer to fill up your humidor at home? It would be online, because I mean, what's the point in going to London to buy a handful of cigars?
Yeah,
You know,
for us, indeed, it's a long trip.
Yeah, exactly. You can spend £150 online and get 15 cigars.
Mm-hmm.
You spend £150 in London, you're going to get 4.
3 and the tube fare.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't think about the train and the parking and the food and the coffee.
I think, and it's interesting to compare purely London because, okay, we're lucky in the sense that we've got quite a concentration of cigar venues there, and it's its own ecosystem in terms of you would go there for that and have choices.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the kind of person who works in the city and that is your life, then that's great for you.
Yeah, that is true.
But for everybody else in the world, or just the UK...
Actually, that does remind me, I get a lot of messages on Instagram from people who are just starting out with cigars saying, how do you smoke cigars because they are so expensive?
Yeah.
And they're going off of the basis of in-store prices.
Yeah.
And when you send them a couple of links to cigars online, they go, makes sense. And I was one of those people a year ago when I was looking at people's content on Instagram. I was thinking to myself, how are people buying boxes of cigars?
Yeah.
Because if you're buying a box of 25 cigars at £30 each, you know, it's like half a month's wage to some people.
Absolutely.
But you look at that same box online and they are very reasonable.
Indeed. And you can buy them in singles and mix and match quite easily.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that people who are just getting into cigars, especially, you know, your younger crowd, the first place you're going to come across them is social media.
Yeah.
Through a blogger that you like, or through an Instagram page that you follow.
Or Cigars of London.
Or Cigars of London, hopefully. And if you don't follow already, then you should. But one of the things to bear in mind is that it's the same with a lot of things in social media. Life isn't always as glossy as it first seems. And, you know, these guys are buying their cigars online.
Yeah.
Some of the larger... I don't want to say cigar influencers because that isn't really a thing that exists yet, with the exception of Cigars of London. But the people who have that lifestyle that cigars is a big part of, sometimes they're given them.
Yes.
Sometimes they're sent them by companies or stores.
Yeah.
Or indeed, you're ingrained in a network of people that bring them back from different countries.
Yeah, this is also true.
There's plenty of guys in and around the industry and the scene that spend a lot of time in Cuba. And to bring them back is still a possibility for the UK. And the same as we just spoke about with you going to Cologne in Germany and me going to Poland. I brought a nice healthy supply of cigars back from Europe for a quarter of the price that
it doesn't
I pay
break
in
the
the
bank,
UK.
does it?
And I say a quarter of the price, a quarter of the online price that I'd pay in the UK.
Wow. That's
So
a huge difference, isn't it?
it's a massive difference. Davidoff's, for example, a brand that a really prestigious brand, an old brand, and one that is definitely known, at least at the retail level, for being quite pricey. And I was bringing back sticks, legitimate Davidoff cigars from Poland for £7 a stick.
Wow. I think as well, paying less for something which is the same as what you would buy in a store in London, it makes the experience more enjoyable and less painful when you know that you've just spent £30 on a cigar.
Yeah.
I suppose it depends what your budget's saying, but if you want to smoke a cigar every other day, you don't want to be smoking £30 cigars.
Certainly not. And that also leads into cigars can be hit and miss.
Yeah, they can.
You know, the beauty of cigars is they're a little bit rustic. You know, even your really polished ones, you know, they're machine made and so on. They're cigars at the end of the day. You know, they're not tailor-made cigarettes. They're not got that element of production precision.
Yeah.
They're rustic.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't the greatest experience because of that.
Yeah.
You know, you can get one with a plug in it that's blocked. And if you've paid 30 plus up to £100 a stick for that cigar, and you have a poor experience, that's disheartening.
Yeah.
In fact, that brings back another memory from last year. Is that you can have a poor experience with a cigar, and it can put you off that cigar or that brand indeed for a long time.
It can ruin your day.
Absolutely. And there was a lot of backlash and online controversy from our first Trinidad video. For guys that have followed the channel for a little while, you might remember a review that was, I think, titled "Trinidad was Trinibad."
Yeah.
And that was great upset online from people who wholeheartedly disagreed with your review.
But it's exactly what you say though. You do get a bad cigar, but more and more, especially on social media, am I seeing that people are buying boxes, and out of the 10, 5 of them are bad.
Really?
Which is not a very good ratio, is it?
Not
when you're spending, a good amount of money on a premium product, for 5 of them to have to put in the bin, it's just not on, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
No, you're not flying to Cuba to complain, are you?
No, not at all. Let's very quickly touch on the cigar that we're currently smoking. We're going into the final third now. How are you finding it?
Everything I remember. I was hoping that I wasn't building this up in my mind, given how much of a sentimental importance to this particular cigar. But flavour profile again just as complex.
Yeah.
All those earthy flavours plus the odd little sweet note. I wouldn't say necessarily that I've got raisins.
Not yet.
But there's definitely a fruity sweetness to it. Although I couldn't pin it down to one particular thing. How about you?
Well, again, it brought back another memory just then. I remember this cigar developing to its max right in the final third.
Yeah.
Almost to the nub. Because I remember stopping the live stream, us continuing the smoke.
Yeah.
I think this is how it went down. And then it started to really pick up. And loads of flavours started coming through. And it was like, why did we end the live stream?
Yeah.
Could be making that up. But
no, that does ring a bell. There was still so much more to talk about in that last bit of the cigar.
No, I am enjoying this for 15. I think it was 15.50 in the shop. This is not a bad cigar at all. It's got a very pleasant. It's got a thick smoke output.
Yeah.
But the aroma is very pleasant. It's not threatening.
Yeah.
If you were sitting a few tables down, it would be quite a nice smell. Strength, medium. I'm not going to say it's medium to full, like I've seen some people talking about online. I'm not finding that it's given me that much of a hit, if I'm honest. I think the flavours are full, but the body is medium, which is a nice mix for me, personally.
Agreed, yeah. A nice, if you really want to push the boundaries of flavour profile, if you're that kind of person, your palate leans towards the earthy flavours and the peppery stuff. This one will push all your buttons without really slapping you around the back of the head. Yeah,
no, exactly. And the way it does change and develop throughout is really nice, because you get a mixture of everything. You get that bitter sweet, but you also get a bit of earth, leather, and I'm still trying to pick out a raisin.
Still trying to find a raisin. Even just a slightly warm grape.
Yeah. Exactly. But the ash has been holding on well.
Yeah.
Burn has been razor sharp.
Absolutely perfect. And I'm one of these people who I will complain about a bad burn when it happens.
Yeah.
But then I don't appreciate a good one because I'm too busy enjoying the cigar. But actually, this has been symmetrical and razor sharp all the way down.
I think you, out of most people, are quite OCD when it comes to the burn. It has to be straight.
I'll tidy it up halfway through a cigar over and over and over again.
Yeah. But I'm truly enjoying this. It's nice to be able to light a cigar once and not have to touch it, not have to keep your eye on it.
Yeah.
Just to be able to sit back, enjoy your favourite drink with some good company, and just enjoy the smoke, enjoy the flavours and the overall experience of the cigar. And again, £15.
Oh yeah, absolute bargain. While we're talking about enjoying the flavours, if you had to pick things to pair with this, having now tasted it, what would you say?
I'm not sure. I'm currently sipping on water, which sometimes can go quite nicely with a cigar. If if I was to stop right now and go and make myself a drink, I think I would have a spirit of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a massive coffee fan, but I think it would be a rum or a whiskey.
Yeah, I think it'd have to be one of those spirits. So I think there's something to be said sometimes with contrasting pairings. With this one being quite in the dark flavours, you might be tempted to have something the opposite side quite sweet.
Yeah.
But I think given the flavours of this one, I would not do that. I would stay in the darks with your whiskies and your bitters. I'm obviously sitting here with quite a strong sugar-free coffee along with this, and it's going quite nicely. That whole cafe crema feel, that little chocolatey edge to the cigar.
Now we're talking about coffee. Espresso.
Yeah.
This is reminding me of an espresso. It's got that sharp.
Yeah, it reminds me a little of if you ever had a really good espresso or a Turkish coffee and you get that little bit at the bottom, a little sludgy, really bitter, but still quite wholesome coffee flavour. There's an edge of that to this.
This is definitely an evening cigar.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we would agree on having something like a whiskey or a rum. It's that end of day, end of a long hard day or a week where you really just want to chill out, enjoy something with loads of flavour, that medium body with a nice sharp drink as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I'd for pairings I'd definitely stay on the richer side of stuff. Maybe even a red wine. Perhaps.
Actually, with some dark chocolate.
Yeah, somewhere there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Given the bits and pieces and notes I'm picking out of it, and for listeners who haven't heard me critique cigars before, I'm quite known for being really specific with the things that I find in flavors. So you won't just get it's quite dark and coffee like, it's like the sludge at the bottom of a cup. I once
the nice bit of sludge.
Yeah, the nice bit of sludge. I once was listening to a wine sommelier talk about flavour notes he could find in a particular wine, and it was a white wine. I believe it's quite appley, so maybe a Pinot somewhere in that way. And they're known in certain circumstances for having that fruity appley overtone, but under there's almost like a rubbery. Just a background note, just a bit of rubber. And people would usually say it's a bit rubbery. But this particular guy insisted on it being the kind of rubber you get from opening a fresh packet of tennis balls. And I thought... I
love that.
Yeah, I like that. I love how specific he was. And I thought, it's not just me. There are other people out there who are like, no, not just any rubber. Tennis ball rubber.
Sometimes it's fun to be specific. And sometimes most of the time it's fun actually smoking with other people, because you do get that sort of insight into what people can smell or taste. And on more than one occasion have we been sitting down smoking a cigar and we can't pick something out, and someone will go tennis balls, and you go, oh my god, tennis ball rubber.
I think that's how you mature your palate. I think is by continuously tasting with other people and then pointing things out. Because you can then make that little link in your mind and go, oh yeah, cherries or whatever. You hadn't, you couldn't put your finger on that note before.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's always an interesting experience to do it with other people like that. But I don't find there's enough of that with cigars. And it's one of the things that I hope we'll get from further online cigar meets.
Yeah.
Because it's something I quite like to encourage from people, is to say, no matter how experienced you are, if you had to tell me something you taste now, what is it? And people will hopefully not feel so restricted. If I'm sitting in a cigar lounge with 5 other, gentlemen in their 50s who are all quite well to do, and I tell them that I can taste the sludge at the bottom of some coffee or a tennis ball, I'm going to worry that I'm going to get judged.
Yeah.
Whereas in a forum where there's a lot of us online and we're discussing things in the comments, you might well get that same experience where you go, oh, I'd never thought. Yeah, of course, Morello cherries.
Yeah, I like where that's going actually, because a few cigar evenings we went to actually about a year ago, me especially, I I'm always quite reserved in what I say, because I guess I'm worried that people will judge me. And I, looking back, I think that's because the group of people that I'm sitting with are clearly more experienced, and I don't want to embarrass myself. On the other side, I think a lot of people within this industry just agree too much.
It's a bit of an echo chamber.
Yeah. So if one person says I can taste chocolate, everyone goes, yeah,
chocolate. Yeah,
I can't taste this. Yeah, no, neither can I. But really, like, if you can taste tangerines, fine, say it.
Say tangerines.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, have a bit more fun, drop the ego a little bit, and just experience and have fun.
Yeah. And that was I think that was part of the fun and part of the appeal for us right early on, as we realised that we were, in the nicest way possible, kind of impressing ourselves on the cigar world as it already existed. And I remember, I think it was probably the first cigar evening we went to, and it was put on by one of our regular stores. And I remember sitting in a room, quite a small little room, full of all kinds of cigar trinkets and bits and pieces. We're quite crammed in there with I think maybe it was like 8 or 10 people.
Yeah.
And really hosted by a guy who the cigar industry is going to severely miss, I think, because he doesn't really do that kind of thing anymore. I'm feeling exactly the same way you felt. I'm feeling the need to break the ice, so to speak, because I felt out of my depth.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this or not, but after probably about halfway through the cigar, we were on our second whiskey that I probably had 2 sips of, because I'm not really a whiskey guy, so that was a awkward experience for me. And I remember there being a bit of a lull in the conversation and asking, look guys, actually, if I'm honest with you, this is only I think it was my 3rd cigar ever. And you guys have obviously all been quite into this for a long time. If I was to go around the room here, could you all tell me something that I don't know? Is there any do's and don'ts or any social faux pas that you could tell me about? And as I was saying it, I remember thinking, what are you doing? This is going to backfire and be really awkward. I was expecting everyone to look up at me in total stony silence and nothing happened, and me go, okay then. Just
I do remember
sink back into my whiskey.
I remember it clearly.
But actually, it was received really well.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple of them going, oh, good question. And getting around the room. I remember that's the night that I learned that, and maybe it's the same in different circles and perhaps not, that it's not really the done thing to crunch a cigar out in an ashtray. It's considered respectful to the roller to leave it to burn out. Yeah. And I learnt that just from asking that question.
Exactly. And with that being said, I do think that people that have been in the industry forever, they forget that it is okay to ask questions. And you saying breaking the ice, you absolutely did do that, and it was so refreshing to have someone in that room ask a question instead of everyone just sitting around pretending that they know everything and everyone should agree with everyone in a way. Yeah, and I do wonder, and I'm sure we'll never know for sure, but I do wonder how many people you see at those events who would appear to be quite knowledgeable aficionados or quite comfortable with the scene that are actually in absolute turmoil. Yeah. Sitting there going, I don't want to make a mistake in case I'm judged, and perhaps never passing an opinion or asking a question. Yeah. I remember we went to a members club in London, and we invited quite cordially to one of their cigar nights. Yeah. I think we vlogged it. And the host was really gracious and invited us, and obviously, we still speak to him now. Yeah. And I remember going and seeing the kind of plethora of people that were there. That was a much more comfortable environment, I thought. The host was great as well. Yeah, a bit more laid back. Yeah, a bit more laid back, really social guy, real people's person. And he was really good at engaging everyone. So I remember that, the particular venue's got there's a couple of cigar terraces, but given the weather and the time of year, we were crammed onto quite a small one. Yeah. So there was maybe 15 people on this little, cigar terrace, all crammed in with our rum and our cigar each, and having conversations with plenty of different people. There were some guys there who if you want to use the phrase, influencers on Instagram, who tens of thousands of followers and smoke cigars all day, every day, and put out some really interesting stuff.
and guys there. I remember there was a guy who owned a series of market stalls. Do you remember this guy? And he was.
I'm not sure I do.
He was very sharply dressed bloke, really nice 3-piece suit, and he was very. He had a London accent for sure. You know, that real kind of homegrown Cockney sounding accent.
Yeah.
And if you were gonna put an archetypal person who smokes cigars, a British guy that smokes cigars, he was not it. You know, but at the same time, very into his cigars. You know, and he was explaining how he and where he enjoyed them and who he enjoyed them with. And that was kind of what a real bonus with that night.
Yeah.
You know, it really does depend.
It forces you to talk and get to know people and ask questions, and I guess you feel more comfortable asking an open question because everyone's doing it.
Yeah, and it had more of that invitee atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
Come one, come all.
Yeah,
come and
exactly.
experience this with us.
Yeah. So let's give a quick final summary as to what we think of these cigars. I'm going to say, as I said, probably something similar last year. This is amazing, great value for money. I'd recommend it to anyone. Maybe not the beginner smoker, but
yeah. I think I'll agree with that. My opinion on these hasn't changed. If anything, it's probably going a little bit more fond.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be a repeat, I think, on the channel and on the podcast.
100%.
I would suggest actually that this be one that we shortlist to do an online cigar meet.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
To get
Agreed.
other people's on it.
So, John, if people want to find you on social media, what do they have to search for?
On Instagram, I'm at John the Cap. That's JON. And you'll see all sorts of cigar related and photography related content on there, and just
all sorts of bits.
All behind the scenes of my life.
Awesome. Well, this has been good fun, and we'll do the same thing next week. Thank you to anyone who's continued to listen this far. We really appreciate it, and we will speak to you all very soon.
One last one for anyone who downloaded this podcast, listen to it. If you want to see the setup in which we smoke cigars, or you're just curious what Jez looks like, this will also be on our side channel, the podcast channel, on YouTube. So you'll be able to watch the full video from beginning to end.
Perfect.
It's been great coming back, Jed.
It's good having you.